Thanks for listening to the fourth in our collection of special Deepdale Festival podcasts in 2024. I'm Jason and your host for this series. In this episode, I chat with Hawksley Workman from Canada, who performs on Sunday, Christina Alden and Alex Patterson from Norwich, who perform on Friday, and Christian Smith from Cambridgeshire, who performs on Saturday with his band The Heretics. Hawksley chats about his love of touring, his wingman Mr. Lonely on piano, and how Canadians look at the UK for inspiration and adulation. Christina and Alex chat about how their music writing happens, particularly interesting to know how a couple who are relatively new parents navigate the process. Christian chats about how The Heretics came into being, and the way his musical journey has changed direction with the addition of the band and 3 fellow collaborators. Thank you to all of them for allowing us to play a sample of their music. From Hawksley Workman, we play Battlefords. From Christina Alden and Alex Patterson, we play Safe Travels, thinking of all of you travelling to Deepdale for the festival. And from Christian Smith and the Heretics, we play Revelry. Enjoy this episode and look out for at least one more episode which we'll release shortly.
Hello.
Hi, Hawksley. How you doing?
How's it going? Great, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So where are you at the moment? Are you in Europe or are you?
Oh, I'm at home in Peterborough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. The leaves are turning here. It's all that. I'm not really ready for the summer to be over, but it is kind of not something that I have any way to control. So, we just deal with it.
Well, we're really looking forward to you playing. What can people expect from a Hawksley Workman gig? What does that entail when you go to play a festival?
Well, I'll be there with my piano man, Mr. Lonely, who I've played with for 25 years.
Mr. Lonely, that's a great name.
Lonely, yeah. Yeah, he's been with me since day one. In fact, I believe it was the London Times that gave him the name. In some of my earliest gigs in England at the Borderline, I remember I was kind of in the next big thing category, and the London Times had reviewed the show, and his name is Todd Lumley, but I kept referring to him on stage as Mr. Lumley, and I guess that was construed as Mr. Lonely in the paper, and I read it on the next morning, and I looked over at Todd and I said, "That's it. You're Mr. Lonely now," and it's never left. So he and I have been touring the world for 25 years. I kind of have a somewhat of an operatic cabaret type voice. It's a very sort of, I think it's a kooky, risky pop cabaret thing that we do on stage. And he's
Fantastic.
he's been catching my fall for all those years. And I love my job now more than I ever have. It's just such a joy and an honor to be somebody who gets to play music for a living. And I also feel like I feel like I'm better at what I do now than I was as a kid. And I know, like, we all love everybody's early work, and we all get tired of hearing our middle-aged heroes wax on about how they're making their best music ever. But I understand what that feels like to be on the inside of that experience. And I do feel that after 25 years of touring with Mr. Lonely, like, we do have a thing that is quite unique to us. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to be schlepping that around the UK and schlepping that around France and parts of Belgium. And then when we come home, we're going to be touring Western Canada for about 6 weeks. So it'll be a joy. I hope that's what we attempt to do. Is, I married into a sports family, so I get to watch sports a lot. And I'm always, as a kid, I was always like, what's interesting about sports more than art? Sometimes there's more people that go to see a football match maybe than a gig. And it's mostly because of all the danger and intrigue that's in sport. And I sort of feel in music, sometimes if you have too many things predetermined, let's say, I still play all the songs I've ever written on stage, but I try to make it feel like things are going to fall apart just before they're actually put back together again. So we try to bring a sporting element to what we do on stage.
That's a proper cabaret kind of attitude, isn't it? It's that
Exactly.
sense of of foreboding for the audience. You know, they have no idea what's coming next, and
Yeah,
then it at the end they go, "Oh my God, we survived! It was great!" You know, yeah.
and I feel like that's what I've learned watching live sport, because I didn't grow up in a family that did that, but I see what it is that's appealing about it is that tension between unresolved and resolved. And I think in modern music, things are tuned, things are fixed, people are playing the tracks on stage. I think what Mr. Lonely and I attempt to do is be very antithetical to some of those features of modernity and really just attempt to lean into what's authentic and good about two guys who have this brotherly connection, who've been getting on stage doing this kooky music thing all around the world for a quarter century. So that's what we do.
Sounds right up the street of all the people who come to Deepdale. They love. It's funny that like we've talked about this with a couple of other artists, but they were like artists who haven't been before are like, well, so what do you expect? And I said, well, the audience, they trust Chris, who's my business partner and the kind of festival director. They
Yep.
trust him to put together 3 and a bit days of amazing music. And the vast majority of people who come to Deepdale Festival just want to watch and listen to great music. And they trust Chris to fill their ears with a whole bunch of amazing artists. And you guys are going to be just awesome. You'll just be an amazing part of that. And I think it's going to be wonderful. And what we've really loved this year is how much introduction from one artist to another artist there's been. So Rich from Man the Loaf Bites introduced us to you, and to Evangeline and to Lady Nade and a few other people. And it's just really lovely how kind of all of these interconnections happen. And international festival with you guys, you and Evangeline coming from Canada, Track Dogs guys coming from Madrid, and then we've got the Henry girls coming from Ireland, and now we've just confirmed Thea, who is coming from Australia. So it's
Okay.
a really nice kind of collection and a really nice interaction between all of you. So have you played with any of the artists or seen any of the other artists who are playing at the festival this year?
No, no, I haven't played or seen any of them. So it's going to be a great time for discovery for us as well.
And you coming for? Are you going to manage to see some of the festival, or have you got to race off for another gig in between?
You want to know the truth is that I haven't actually looked at the schedule. Years ago, when I started to get really, really busy, I started to have this anxiety because I was looking at my calendar and seeing these vast mountains of dates piling up and thinking, how am I going to stay healthy through all this? In my late 20s, I made a decision to just stop looking at the calendar and have each day happen to me individually as they come. So
Brilliant.
frankly, well, I guess, but it means I sit here with you saying, look, I don't really, I can sound so ridiculous. I don't really know what I'm going to be doing. But somebody does, and I'm sure that I will be taken to the right place at the right time. So yeah,
So tell me about the Juno Award, because I don't know that award. Is that a Canadian or a North American thing?
yeah, that's our like Canadian Grammy Awards. They're handed out every year here. It's a big deal in Canada. Yeah, but it's true outside of Canada. It doesn't really nobody really knows what they are. It's for our sort of this northern outpost we have here. It's the way we sort of celebrate and for the industry to come together and self-congratulate. So that's it's like all award shows. They all kind of do the same thing. Just for Canada, we do it in a very small, undetectable kind of way.
When you're touring, where's your favorite place to tour? Is it in Europe or is it in North America?
I mean, it's different because when I was first starting in Europe, like I had an interesting career trajectory where I kind of became famous in France, and I was known in the UK, but it never blew up. And so there was always this funny thing happening there. In Canada, my career had sort of a rise to a point where like I'm a known quantity here. So what I love about touring Canada is that I get to feel like a somewhat famous person. When I'm touring Europe, what I like is that I get to be in a beautiful place filled with history and culture that I've been able to kind of wiggle my way into the fabric of for the last 25 years. And I feel honored and just, I'm always deeply inspired. I love playing in the UK. I love playing in France. I love playing in Norway. I used to love playing in Australia. I used to play in Australia all the time. it's a long way to go. And it seemed like the last few times I played Australia, I'd be leaving Sydney on the plane, and literally as it's taking off, I'm thinking, I'm never coming back here again. And it's not that the gigs weren't good, they're usually great. It's that I didn't want to subject my body to the turmoil of the trip and just all that's sort of there. Touring is, it's funny because I'm going to be 50 next year, and I have a lot of my friends, other music friends, saying, don't you wish you could just stay home now? And I feel like I've been almost, the expectation is that as you get older, you're supposed to want to kick your feet up. To be quite honest, I'm more emboldened to be on the road now than ever before. I love it more. And partly that's due to the fact that I drank heavily on the road for years. And so then, you get off the road and you have to recover at home. It's not like the drinking stopped, it just slowed down a little bit. But you had this perspective of the road, of a place that is like hard on your body, hard on your system, and I think then when you hear a lot of artists of old lament the road, it's because sometimes it's just too much exposure to things that are hard on your heart and systems. So once I got that thing figured out, and the drinking went away on the road, all of a sudden, what is magical about being in other countries, playing gigs, that's all that's left for me now. It's the wonderful part. I don't deal with hangovers or any other bullshit anymore. I am just purely invested in the experience of being a very lucky person who doesn't, I remember somebody I used to be a roommate with in the very early days of my career, and she said, you're so lucky. Most of us will see the world as tourists, and tourists, not to be too, it's not a criticism, but tourism is an act of sort of taking. You don't always get to leave yourself when you're a tourist, and when you're a touring musician, there is a sense that you're invested in an exchange. And I know that might just sort of be my way of feeling uppity, but that's something I take very seriously. And I feel like as a kid locked out here in the middle of nowhere in Canada, I've spent a lot of time ambling about the planet, seeing how humans interact with one another. And it's really given me pause, and it's given me an instinct for the sociological, the sociological comings and goings of humanity. And it's something I am just eternally grateful for. I feel like it's a way to sort of endeavor into a philosophy, a poetry. So yeah, I love touring. I love touring a lot of places. I've always loved the UK. I mean, the UK gave us the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. So for Canadians and everybody else, we all want to make it in the UK. That's the final stamp of approval. If you get a good review in Mojo Magazine, if you are well regarded in the UK, for most people outside of the UK, that is about as close to being deified as you're going to get, is having the Brits say, you're great. And I think in many ways, that's what we've all been trying to do when we go to England, is just try to get their attention, because you guys created the best music journalism. You guys created some of the best music. I mean, I'm an 80s kid, right? Like, I didn't really buy into 90s grunge, which was more heavily influenced by the American instinct. I am much more interested in that British sophistication. I'm a big Smiths fan. I'm a big fan of Thomas Dolby and Tears for Fears, like things that came from the 80s that informed me at my deepest levels, and that still feel like they're integral to me, and not for nostalgic reasons. It's almost like when I listen to Talk Talk Laughingstock, I can think of, it was that record that emboldened me to want to make my own music. Or when I heard the horribly distorted drum fill at the beginning of watching The Detectives, I'm like, well, fuck, if they can get away with that, then I can do whatever the fuck I want. If they can put drums on this incredible song, all I need to do is come up with a cool lyric, a little organ part, and a distorted drum sound, and I can join the party. So, that's my confession, is that touring England, I think for most North Americans and Canadians alike, we are exorcising or exorcising a little demon in us that deeply desires to be accepted by the British public.
Fascinating. That's really interesting. Yeah, because of course a lot of the artists I talk to are British, so they're constantly thinking about whether they can make it in the in the US, and it's fascinating hearing it from the other side of the pond.
I'll give you one more little sort of trivial bit, that the new wave made a bigger impact in Canada than it did in the US. Now, by virtue of numbers, there's 10 times as many Americans. So there was always going to be bigger business for the Brits to do in America. But, all the exports from the 80s new wave found a much easier home in Canada first before they were able to sort of break into that American spirit. And again, I just think it's in Canada, we're a little bit, we're here because we were loyalists. We didn't want to be a part of the American insanity. So we all ambled off to the cold north and put the Queen back on her money and got back to the business of being, civilized. And so I think that in many ways, a lot of British music hits Canadians a little differently than it hits Americans.
Yeah, fascinating. Hawksley is playing on Sunday at the Deepdale Festival in the Brick Barn. Him and Mr. Lonely are going to be filling the Brick Barn with some amazing music, and we are so looking forward to your set. It's going to be fantastic. Thank you for chatting to me. I hope that the travels over the next few weeks are uneventful and successfully make it to Deepdale without any disruption, and that the gigs you're doing in the meantime are good fun. I know our audience are going to love you, and I think it will be great to have you there. My cousin, when he saw that you were on our program, he's a Canadian, and he went, "Oh my God, you guys have got Hawksley Workman. That's amazing." So you'll be very pleased to know that a fellow Canadian has given you the complete thumbs up and said that we've done ourselves proud to have you play. So we're really looking forward to your cabaret style madness on the stage. It'll be great.
Great.
Any particular song you'd like me to play?
I think you should play one. I've got a newer song called Battlefords.
Good.
It will sound decidedly folk, how we've sort of indulged in this cabaret idea. But that's the other thing. I like to confuse my audience. I don't ever want them thinking I'm resting in any one modality. I just want to make sure I'm keeping everybody confused.
Good. We like that. We like that a lot. Yeah, it's brilliant. Thank you so much, Hawksley. Keep well, and we'll see you soon.
Another summer wasted in the Battlefords on a banana seat bike with the hockey card in the spokes. A friend of ours who stopped his car by to say that he better get home. He said, "You're gonna get a beating. You're gonna get the beating of your life." Oh, NutraSweet and Fresca and Pop Shop and all the best of what a babysitter could afford, with enough negotiation and a freckled smile. Another summer wasted here in the Battlefords. Our dust-coated, freezy-stained lips and lawn darts in the yard. And the richest guy in town drives his new Lincoln drunk on the old dusty streets, balancing the snifter of gin.
I am chatting to two very lovely Norwich folk who many of you will have seen play at Deepdale in various guises. They're part of various Norfolk folk supergroups, and they are the most amazing duo. I am speaking to Christina Alden and Alex Patterson, and they are playing on the Orchard stage on Friday of Deepdale Festival. And it is going to be really lovely to welcome them back. Have you guys ever played the festival as a duo before, or have you always been part of other combinations?
We played as a duo 2 years ago. So we were with Kite Wing last year and a duo the year before, and I think we may have had a year off.
I think you also played on Nick Supardi's solo. Yeah, I love the way that Nick kind of described it as a solo set, and then there was hundreds of you on the tiniest stage. It was just great.
It was 4 of us. That was a really nice little project. I forgot we did that.
Works really well there, the bar area now, kind of with the cover and stuff. It just works really well. We had, because of course Jess Morgan played there last year, and she was really quite nervous beforehand. She hadn't done any big bigger gigs for a while, and you could hear a pin drop when she sang. And then
Yeah.
Chris Riddle absolutely floored her because he'd done a whole lot of pictures of her related to her song. One's about New York. He drew her in a Cubs kind of kit and stuff, and then presented to them at the end, and she blew her away. So there we go.
Oh, lovely.
But for anybody who hasn't seen you play, how would you describe your music as a duo?
So I'd say it was contemporary folk.
On fiddle and guitar, banjo and tenor guitar.
Yeah.
We sing harmonies.
And
we
we
write
do
songs about nature and stuff.
Yeah. And kind of, lots of storytelling about animals and nature, and then a few traditional-y things in there.
We try and make as much noise as possible for two of us, really.
That's always good. Are they completely original songs, or do you get inspiration from some old poetry and old stories and stuff, or is it kind of a mixed?
It's 95% original. We do one or two traditional songs, and we've probably put on average like a traditional song in each album that we've released, and it is traditional in the sense that the lyrics are traditional or adapted from a traditional song, but it's mostly our own stuff.
And how does the writing process work between you? Do you both kind of have your own little writing corner and you kind of write stuff and then go to the other one and go, look at me? Or does it something that organically happens with you both as you're together?
Christina does nearly all the songwriting and all the lyric writing, and then she brings it to me.
Yeah, so I'll find something. So we've just written a new song which is about the Highland hare.
White mountain hare.
And I just saw an article about it and kind of the impact of climate change and its changing surroundings, and it's a turncoat, so it matches its surroundings so it can hide from its predators, but they're kind of out of sync because of everything that's changing. And I found that fascinating, so I just delved in, looking at all of the different imagery and the landscape and all of these things. So I'll write a load of notes and then try and weave some of the bits together and get something that looks a bit like a song, and I'll be like, Alex, I've got this.
And then I'll tear
help
it to
me.
bits.
We'll tear it to bits, and then we'll have a song.
We spend most of them, we just really just pick apart and change bits and record it and listen back and change it. And I think that sort of attention to detail, I hope it comes across. I think that, sometimes there's songs that do just come out. Christina will write something and it's pretty much fully formed, but a lot of the time we just really we work on them a lot, and they can take a really long time to form.
And are you thinking about how you perform it live, or are you thinking about how you record it on the whole when you produce music?
So in terms of the arrangement, the way that we record stuff and the way that we play it is largely the same. When I do all the recording, and I might think about production in terms of like extra string layers and things like that, or extra textures when you're building a song in terms of recording, and that might be sort of done live, and we use a shruti box which adds a bit of texture, or I might do some squeaky fiddle or something. But in terms, it's largely the arrangements of how we play something live and how we record it are largely the same. It's just there's more embellishment when it's on a record.
Yeah. So who plays what?
So I play guitar and banjo,
and I play fiddle and tenor guitar, and I stamp on a shruti box, and Christina also does a bit of foot percussion as well, and we both sing.
Yeah.
Have you both done music kind of all your life? You have no recollection of when you started, or was there a moment where it just clicked and you just thought, oh, I love this?
I don't know. We both had sort of musical upbringings. I've played music since I was a child, and so has Christina. But it's been sort of, for me personally, it's had varying levels of importance throughout my life. Sometimes it's just been something I've enjoyed doing, and sometimes it's helped me pay the bills.
Mine's similar to that, really. I had a musical childhood, and then I was very shy when I was younger, so I didn't play in front of anybody until I was about 22. And then my friends at uni, we kind of played a bit of music together, and then I guess through the Norwich music scene, then I met Alex, and we just obviously started playing music together, and here we are 12 years later.
I don't think it's like a lot of people ask it actually, like whether we had musical upbringings, and I think it was nice, and it's quite a romantic sort of story, but I also think it's not necessary. If you want to do music, you can start at any point in life, and it shouldn't ever be a barrier. That if you, I don't feel like it was a head start. In some respects, maybe it is. But it certainly shouldn't stop people wanting to start music at any point in life. And I think I've become a much better musician in the last sort of 15 years than I was in my 20s, because I've worked at it. And it is like anything in life, really. If you want to get better at it, it's just practice.
Practice. And which came first, the relationship or the writing together?
We jammed together when we first were dating, but we didn't start playing in front of people other than our cat for a few years.
The cat can tell all.
Yeah.
So have you written a song about the cat yet? That's the question.
No, not yet.
Really you better get on with it. You better get on with that song. Write it now before it's too late. Or write it for the memorial. Yeah,
I'll do that. Sad cat song.
Yeah. We must get you together with Moongate Ale. You know, the guys who run the bar, David and Rachel, who run the bar at the festival and at the Hugo. Of course, they name all of their beers after hares. And it's from the poem about all the hares. It's the old poem with all the different names of different hares. And they've just produced a book called Jigfoot, which has been illustrated. It's like a kid's book with the hare doing stuff. A sort of thing that would just be fabulous if there was somehow a song in all of that. That would be just such a fabulous matchup, wouldn't it? It'd be really great.
That'd be lovely, yeah.
We've got a hare song.
Yeah, halfway there.
Has it been a massively busy summer, or have it been quite a calm one this year?
It has. We've got 14 festivals this season. So
14.
Yeah.
I talked to Jess Silk earlier, and she had 20 something. So you haven't quite beaten her, but 14's a lot.
It's
14's a lot. Yeah.
It's just a hell of a lot of traveling. So it's sort of winding down now, which is really nice. Like we've got Greenbelt, which is just down the A14, like 2.5 hours, which is local for us really. And when you're a touring musician, 2.5 hours is nothing. We've got to drive to Northumberland the following week for a festival, and then Deepdale, which is obviously nice and local.
The last one.
Yeah, it's the last one, and it's really nice because we've got the weekend off, so we're bringing the camper van and
bringing our feral child and my parents and.
Oh, you're bringing the babysitters. That's good. That's good to hear.
We have done gigs with that. Christina did a gig with Etta on her back, but it would be really difficult now. She was
a baby. I wouldn't do it now.
It would be very hard.
They reach a point where things become significantly more difficult. They get easier later, but just there's a period, isn't there, where that's cool. Yeah. Oh well, I'm glad you're going to be there for most of the festival. That'd be great. You'll get to see some amazing stuff, and there's some wonderful artists playing. And Friday when you guys are playing is just fabulous. You know, there's Track Dogs and Bonfire Radicals and Catherine Williams and Withered Hand, Aaron Horlock and Nick Good, Wensum, Elizabeth and Jameson, Hemingway, Ross Stewart, Sakash, The Larks, and Toast Poetry. And I know, having read that out, that now Chris will go and produce some more names, which I haven't got on my list. So that's almost guaranteed. Every time I print anything or produce anything with the this is the lineup, there's always an addition. But it's funny when you say, oh no, Deepdale's very local, because I remember the first time we wanted to have music at Deepdale and trying to persuade bands from Norwich that they could come out to Deepdale. They sort of was like, God, where is that? Well, hang on, you've traveled in Scandinavia and all sorts of other places. We're literally only an hour's drive. And then once people came, they were like, oh, actually, no, this is quite nice. Quite like it. We'll come back. Yeah. But it was just really funny, kind of that first persuasion, the kind of trying to get people to come and actually first time. But there we go. Well, it's really lovely to chat with you both. If I played a sample of a track, what would you choose?
We've got a new single out. I say a new single. It came out a couple of months ago called Safe Travels. And
brilliant. Safe Travels. So nice to speak to you. And we will see you on the Orchard stage on the Friday of the Deepdale Festival. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. See you there.
Safe safe travels wherever you go. My heart lingers to you, clings to your bones, and the night's never ending on the way home. Safe travels wherever you roam. You're leaving, bound far away. My heart longs for you, but I know you can't stay. In my mind it is turning with the things I should say. When you're leaving, bound far away. Be steady as you move along. May the wind fill your sails as it carries you on. The road's never ending when you're alone.
So I'm chatting with Christian Smith, who is playing at Deepdale Festival with his band, The Heretics. Welcome to Deepdale Podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm doing well. Doing very well. Yeah. Busy.
Good. So I guess the first question is, who are The Heretics and how did that come about?
Sure.
Because last time you played Deepdale, you were just Christian Smith.
Yeah, one man on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, things have changed. So I still do that, but I had a bit of music in the works sort of the last year or so, and I knew that I wanted to take the sound in a slight rockier direction. And I thought, if I'm going to do this on record, we should really kind of try to do this live as well. Luckily, I got working with, I mean, the first sort of contact, if you like, with the band was actually the guitarist, Ash Hardy, is a producer. Initially started working with him just to produce these songs. And it started with Aurora back last year, which we released in January. And we were working on these songs and he was writing some guitar parts. And then we got Ash Jones on board, who's the bassist, and Luke, who's the drummer. We all just kind of started working together to produce these songs, if you like, not really thinking of any sort of future plans.
Yeah.
And these guys just started writing parts to these songs that were really complementing the style of the sort of direction that I wanted to take this in. And we just ended up sort of naturally, well, maybe we should do this live then and see what happens. And we played our first show as a band back in April. I can't remember whether it was just before or just after the release of Famous Last Words, which was the second single this year. And it was at the Junction in Cambridge. And it was just, I hadn't played a show with a band for so many years that to be able to get back on a stage with other people is just such a different experience to playing on your own. Yeah. And I think, yeah, it's kind of addictive in a way. You kind of just want to keep doing it. You know what I mean? It's refreshing to have some people that want the same things, if you like, and are on board with the same direction. And I mean, let's be honest, we're not young anymore. I'm 31 now, so
you're still young. You're still young. I speak from experience. Yeah, you're definitely
in terms of the music industry.
Got you. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah. But we're all kind of on the same page as to what we want to happen, what's realistic, and yeah, it's just nice to be working with similar-minded people.
Yeah. So who are the Heretics?
So on electric guitar with me. So you got me. I'm playing electric guitar now, and obviously singing. You've got Ash Hardy, who plays lead guitar and does backing vocals. Ash Jones plays bass, and then Luke Richardson, who's the baby of the group. He's only 20. He plays the drums.
You've got an album out now, or have you just done singles so far?
Not yet. We've just done singles. Yeah, we've just announced the third single, which will be out on the 9th of August. I'm not sure when this is going out, but yeah, it'll be out on the 9th of August, which is called Revelry. And again, it's just kind of following on from the previous two, just sort of dipping a toe in, if you like, and gauging responses. And who knows, maybe there'll be something bigger to follow.
Christian and the Heretics are going to be playing on Saturday in the Brick Barn. Really looking forward to your set. You've been to Deepdale a few times in various guises over the years, haven't you? Both festivals and standalone gigs. It's going to be lovely to welcome you back, and really exciting that it's kind of a bigger, fuller sort of sound with the Heretics. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes on the barn. I think
Yeah, I
it'll be really
think it's always
great.
been solo before, hasn't it? I don't think,
Yeah.
even back with the Whistlers, I don't think we played with the band at the did we?
Not that I remember. You may have occasionally had other people, just one person with you, but I don't think so. I think most of it's been solo. Big change.
Yeah,
It's going to
yeah.
be great.
I hope it's well
Excellent.
received.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we look forward to, if I was to play a sample of your music, what would you choose to represent Christian Smith and the Heretics if I was going to play a sample?
I think it's got to be this new one, Revelry. I think Aurora and Famous Last Words, as I mentioned, are the two releases that have come out this year. They're kind of very varying in terms of style, and it's sort of Aurora is a lot softer, and Famous Last Words is like completely the other end of the spectrum, and it's quite aggressive and angsty. And I think Revelry is kind of somewhere in the middle, and I think it's more of it's a much more well-rounded sound, and you're gonna scope what we're trying to achieve by listening to that song, I think. I
Brilliant.
can't wait to get back to the festival. It's gonna be awesome.
We love it. Are you going to be able to see much on the day you're with us?
I think so. Yeah.
You've got some fantastic artists playing that day, because there's Skinny Lister, Granny's Attic,
Yeah,
Lady Nade.
are quite prestigious now, aren't they?
Yeah. No, they've just done a really successful tour in the US, which went down an absolute storm. But they are the loveliest guys ever. It's really nice to chat
I
to.
think the first time I heard of them, they were opening for Frank Turner. I'm looking forward to seeing them 100%.
And then, we've got Lady Nade, George Sansom and Matt Quinn, Lucy Grubb, Shackleton Trio, yourself and the Heretics, Clark and Zipardi, Ebb Tide, Richard Quarterman, Backpedal, Brighter Than, and Erin Eliza. Busy day of music. And of course, you guys are playing the Brick Barn, which will be fantastic. We really look forward to seeing you. And thanks so much for chatting with me. And we'll see you on Saturday of the festival. Christian Smith and the Heretics, and they will be on the Brick Barn stage.
Thanks, Jason. Cheers.
Cheers, Christian.
Is there a corner in your mind where all these things reside? Like when the cricket in this house keeps you up at night. Do you remember when the sun shone through and your flowers in the window just started to bloom? When everything's gone, all that's left is life. So live like you ain't got time. Don't worry when the day turns into night. Stick to the left-hand side and drive. But don't take it from me, screaming around like a revelry, up in a cloud of smoke when it all goes wrong. Just like what you say, in the end it comes down to irony. They say life is all too good on the movie screen. Stay away from the dynasty.
Thank you so much for listening to the 4th episode of the Deepdale Festival Podcast 2024. At least one more episode has been recorded and is currently being edited. If you'd like to know more about artists performing at Deepdale Festival 2024, please take a look at the website deepdalefestival.co.uk. Hope we'll see you in September for amazing live music.